My older sister, 28, and I, 24, were once incredibly close. We maintained this bond until a few months ago when my sister, who had recently become engaged to her boyfriend Tyler, 30, suddenly cut off all contact with me. It was a puzzling situation given our close relationship. I had eagerly accepted her invitation to be her maid of honor, actively participating in the wedding preparations. However, around 2 months ago, she inexplicably stopped talking to me. She removed me from the bridesmaids group chat, ignored my calls and texts, and even refused to let me into her house when I visited. The lack of communication and her unexplained behavior left me hurt and confused. My parents were as clueless as I was about this sudden change in her behavior. Despite the silence, I tried to carry on with my life, but her actions continued to weigh on my mind. The final blow came when the wedding invitations arrived, and I did not receive one. It shattered me emotionally, as my sister and I had been inseparable growing up. Still, I respected her wishes and didn't confront her about it. Yesterday, my sister got married, and my emotional state was at its lowest. I spent the day in bed, drowning my feelings in food, feeling awful for not being there as her maid of honor, as we had planned. Then, an unexpected call from my mother brought some clarity. During her wedding speech, my sister mentioned me and accused me of trying to steal Tyler from her at their engagement party. She joked about how I had a history of taking her things, but assumed I would stop at clothes and not go after her future husband. This revelation made everyone uncomfortable, and my mother was furious. I tried to explain to my mother that I hadn't done any such thing, but she was too upset to listen to me. She was angrier with my sister for airing our dirty laundry in front of our family and friends. Since she couldn't confront my sister on her wedding day, I bore the brunt of her anger. Finally, I realized why my sister had cut me out of her life, and I placed the blame on Tyler. A few days before the silent treatment began, I had attended my sister's engagement party, wearing a lavender dress she had bought for me. I had enjoyed some drinks, including champagne, and found myself feeling quite drunk. I refrained from questioning Tyler's intentions when he asked me to accompany him to the kitchen for more snacks. Although I found it odd that he chose me over my sister, I brushed it off as a minor detail. In the kitchen, he complimented my appearance in my dress, and I thanked him. That's when he started suggesting that I didn't need to dress up to catch his attention, implying that I could attract him effortlessly. In my drunken state, I attempted to diffuse the situation with a sarcastic remark, stating that it was my intention all along. I meant it as a joke, but Tyler seemed to take it seriously, staring at me intensely. Just then, my sister walked in, seemingly cheerful, and ushered us out, urging us to enjoy ourselves. I didn't think much of the incident at that time, but looking back, I realized that this might have been the reason for her anger. I regret not addressing it then and there, but I never thought my sister would believe I was flirting with her fiancé. I would never do something like that to her or anyone else. I blame the alcohol for my lapse in judgment. I wish my sister had confronted me about it instead of cutting me out of her life without an explanation. If she had given me a chance to explain, this whole situation could have been avoided. I hold Tyler responsible for the mess, as he was the one flirting with me at his own engagement party. If anyone should have been cut out of her life, it should have been him, not me. Now that I understand the reason for her anger, I'm torn between feeling foolish for my sarcastic response and frustrated that my sister didn't talk to me about it. I'm uncertain how to proceed, especially since I now know the truth about what happened that night. Eventually, after my mother's persistent efforts, my sister agreed to meet me for lunch, and I invited her to my house, hoping to finally resolve this misunderstanding. I hesitated to discuss the matter in front of Tyler. The atmosphere was tense, and my sister appeared distant, which stung a little. Yet, I understood her aloofness now. Despite my understanding, I was put off by the fact that she hadn't bothered to talk to me earlier about what she'd heard. As soon as we were seated, I didn't waste a moment and swiftly apologized for my sarcastic comment at the party. I clarified that I was incredibly drunk and had intended it as a joke. I emphasized that I would never do anything so disrespectful to her, and I had zero interest in Tyler. The conversation that day had been initiated by Tyler, and I had attempted to lighten the intensity with humor, given my shock at his advances and my intoxicated state. While explaining, my sister looked increasingly perplexed and interjected, claiming she thought I had initiated the conversation. Apparently, after the party, she confronted Tyler, who concocted a story where he painted me as the aggressor. He alleged that he flirted with me that one time because he was afraid I might harm myself or create a scene in my drunken state. To validate his story, he showed her a selfie he had downloaded from my Facebook account, falsely claiming I had sent it to him. According to him, I had been persistently texting him, making him uncomfortable for months. He said today's incident was the final straw. He even shed a few tears to enhance his act, which my sister, unfortunately, fell for. I displayed my inbox, revealing the truth about my limited interactions with Tyler. As I shared this, my sister appeared utterly disoriented, caught between believing her sister and the manipulative tale spun by Tyler. Ordinarily, I would have expected her to unquestioningly trust me, being her sister. However, the situation had become painfully complicated. My sister had just married a man who, as it turned out, had been deceiving her all along, even to the point of lying about me. She felt like her entire world had been turned upside down, and I empathized deeply with her situation. I regretted not being forthright with her that day, choosing instead to avoid confrontation. I knew that if I had spoken up then, this entire mess could have been avoided. Once the truth came out, my sister didn't say much and left, but I understood the turmoil she was going through. Ultimately, the decision of whom to believe rested with her, and I respected that. I had done my part by sharing my side of the story, the truth. Now, all I could do was hope for a positive resolution for both of us. As for Tyler, I had no sympathy for him. He could go to hell, as far as I was concerned. The last time I talked to my sister was a devastating experience for her, realizing that her husband might not have been truthful and that she could be with the wrong person was a harsh reality. That was 3 days ago, and since then, significant developments occurred. My sister confronted Tyler about his claims regarding me hitting on him. Initially, he vehemently denied it, labeling me a liar with no morals, accusing me of attempting to break them up. However, under my sister's persistent questioning, he eventually confessed. He admitted fabricating the entire story that night, shifting the blame onto me. He tried to pass it off as a drunken mistake, but his lie unraveled. Tyler had intentionally flirted with me, sober and fully aware, initiating the inappropriate conversation that my sister had overheard. To cover his despicable attempt at cheating, he devised an elaborate lie, causing my sister to cut ties with me for weeks over something that wasn't my fault. My sister couldn't forgive Tyler for his deceit. Not only had he attempted to flirt with me at their engagement celebration, but he also lied about it, deeply hurting her trust. They had a heated argument, during which Tyler attempted to gaslight her, shifting the blame back onto her for pressuring him. His attempt to minimize his actions only worsened the situation. This altercation shattered any chance he had at redemption. Frustrated and hurt, my sister left their home and came to me for support yesterday. Instead, she was visibly upset and hardly discussed her feelings, which was concerning since my sister had a tendency to bottle up her emotions until they reached a breaking point, leading to inevitable mental breakdowns. I've already started searching for family attorneys who can assist with an annulment or divorce, whatever the next step may be. I'm certain she won't return to him, given that she hasn't responded to his calls or texts and has instructed me to block him from her phone and delete their pictures together. She simply can't bring herself to do it. It's truly heartbreaking. What it is. Personally, I'm relieved that she's ending the relationship, even though it's been less than a week since they got married. I don't believe Tyler deserves someone as wonderful as my sister. One morning, she saw me quietly crying at breakfast and inquired about the reason for my distress. I hesitated to explain it to her, as I felt responsible for her marriage falling apart in less than a week. If only I hadn't acted foolishly on the night of her engagement party. Instead of responding sarcastically to brush it off, maybe I should have told her what happened that night. Perhaps she would have realized right then and there that he was unfaithful and wouldn't remain loyal to her. That could have saved both of us a lot of heartache and misery. I felt an overwhelming sense of guilt about what had transpired. Fortunately, my sister was understanding and tried to console me. Even in the midst of her own significant ordeal, she reassured me that she didn't blame me. She recognized that I was intoxicated that night and not thinking clearly. She trusted me implicitly and believed that if it had occurred while I was sober, I would have immediately approached her and revealed the truth. The reality was that it never even crossed my mind later on that she might have overheard the conversation, which is why I didn't inform her about it afterward, even when I had sobered up. I was too apprehensive about appearing like a homewrecker, despite not being one. I confessed this to her, and she reassured me that she didn't think any less of me for hesitating to share what had happened, even after I had sobered up. It was a confusing and unprecedented situation for both of us, and she couldn't guarantee that she would have reacted kindly or believed my account of Tyler's advances had I told her. We both made mistakes, but what mattered was recognizing them and striving to improve. Instead of dwelling on the situation, my sister chose to forgive me and encourage me to do the same. I consider myself incredibly fortunate that she decided to be kind and understanding. She truly is the best older sister I could have asked for. Honestly, they are going to file for divorce with mutual consent. It has been a week since my sister moved out, and Tyler made desperate attempts to paint me as the villain, but his efforts were in vain. 3 days ago, he visited us, falling to my sister's feet, pleading for her forgiveness. He made numerous promises, vowing never to repeat his actions, professing his love for her. Despite his emotional appeals, my sister remained resolute, firmly rejecting any possibility of reconciliation. I was present during the entire conversation, and when Tyler realized that my sister wasn't going to blindly believe him, he resorted to blaming me for everything that had transpired. Tyler had the audacity to fabricate lies about me right in front of me. This led to a heated argument between us. He accused me of flirting with him and dropping hints, alleging that I wore that dress just for him and had followed him to the kitchen intentionally. According to him, my laughter at his jokes and supposed stolen glances were signals I had sent his way. It was almost pathetic how he was trying to portray me as the homewrecker. The truth was, I was laughing because I was tipsy, and my laughter wasn't reserved for him alone. His claims about stolen glances were entirely imaginary. I had chosen not to wear my glasses that day and was squinting because I could barely see in the dim lighting. None of his accusations held any truth, and I firmly confronted him, putting him in his place. The argument escalated to the point where my sister had to step in to prevent any physical confrontation. Tyler was in my face, refusing to back down, attempting to intimidate me. However, his efforts were futile. Despite my smaller size, I was trained in jiu-jitsu, and I was prepared to defend myself and my sister if he laid a finger on us. I was on the verge of confronting him physically, ready to teach him a lesson he'd never forget. He was fortunate my sister decided to intervene before things escalated further. Despite his failed attempt to blame me, he resorted to profuse apologies and tears. I feared my sister might fall for his act since he appeared genuinely remorseful, but she instructed me to leave the room while she spoke to him privately. Reluctantly, I stepped out, trusting my sister's judgment, even though I was unwilling to leave her alone with that jerk. After what felt like an eternity, I heard the door close, signaling his departure. My sister appeared visibly dejected, and I patiently waited for her to share their conversation. I didn't want to push her boundaries, so I occupied myself by preparing dinner while she rested in bed. After our meal, she finally opened up to me. She told Tyler that she appreciated the time they spent together, but his betrayal had shattered her trust completely. She calmly explained to him that his willingness to cheat indicated he didn't truly love or want her. Despite the potential embarrassment of divorcing so soon after their marriage, she firmly believed it was the right decision. She didn't want to invest her time in someone who didn't value her for who she was. She pointed out that Tyler's desperation to salvage their relationship stemmed from societal perceptions, not genuine feelings. She knew he cared little about her emotions, and although it was heartbreaking, she couldn't change that fact. With surprising emotion, they bid each other goodbye, tears staining their farewell, leaving me profoundly saddened for her. However, I was relieved that she wouldn't be trapped in an unhappy, loveless marriage. I marveled at how gracefully she handled the situation. That's where the story ends for today. Thank you for listening. If you have your own story, feel free to send us an email. The email address is in the description. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories like this one. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.